industries face.
Absolutely. But here it's peculiar because in other industries, at least, the raw material is slightly trained. Because colleges today, for example, IT colleges today train on computer science, computer technology, fair amount of basic training. Whereas here, there is absolutely no level of basic training available in a college. So we need to start from fundamentals. Correct. And like I said, yes, but then we feel that yes, being one of the pioneers in this industry, it's our sort of give back to the industry, that we are at least able to create resources, create opportunities for youngsters to come into a new sector. Because normally again, when people say railway, they think it's only Indian Railways which is a job. They don't think, they can't imagine, there could be other opportunities in the railway sector. So that is also what we feel nice, that we've been able to create that opportunity in youngsters. That yes, you have this opportunity, not necessarily working through the UPSC exam or whatever it is. You can actually become a railway professional and grow, make your career. So
this vision of crossing borders and looking at other countries where you could consult, when did that happen?
That is also innovation again. I didn't have a pension, so I had to look for my growth. And I realized that at those days, this was maybe mid-90s, the industry was fairly small. So opportunities, you wouldn't get big ticket jobs because there's hardly anything. So if we needed to even pay decent salaries for staff and ourselves, we needed to get bigger projects which are not coming. So the first thing we realized was, yes, even if we get a small project outside India, in dollar terms, it would still pay back. Those days it used to be 35, 40 rupees a dollar. So even dollar for dollar, you were at least getting 25, 30 times more than what you were. So we started kind of not really looking, but we were open to the idea that yes, but those days we didn't have internet, no Google to search, things like that. So word of mouth, we start kind of spreading around people whom we knew in the industry, or some of the railway officials that actually worked overseas on some assignments or the other. So we started talking to them. I would say it's more luck rather than proper design. Around 97, 98, we suddenly got fax those days. Yes, fax used to work. We received a fax from somebody in Singapore saying that, because Singapore was developing their first metro then. The second technically, because the first metro was built about 30 years earlier, then they stopped building the metro. So this, in that sense, was the very first metro. And there was this gentleman who said that, yes, we got the contract and we really don't know anything having got the contract. So since India is a railway country and you people are doing something in the railways, we've heard about your name, so can we talk about it or something? So we didn't know what the opportunity was, but then we were happy that at least, yes, somebody outside of India was talking to us. So we spoke, and the contractor, of course, it all started off with, they wanted to kind of look at, getting some equipment from India rather than actually engineering. But then we said, okay, we'll help you source equipment for your construction. So we identified vendors for them, helped them place orders and things like that. And then it grew from there. So when they realized that, yes, we knew exactly, because certain times they didn't know what was the equipment they needed. They only knew what was the activity to be done. And they could show photographs, but they didn't know the name of that equipment. So we helped them with those kind of things. Then they got the confidence. So we started getting into it. And then one of those days, yes, they said, can you come over? Then traveling overseas, again, we didn't have the kind of money to risk. So we said, we are not even sure whether after going there we'll get a job or not. So somehow we kind of, over discussions, we got a feeling that yes, there is something available. How much we didn't know, but at least, worst cases, at least it would take care of my fare of going there and coming back. I also had a close friend of mine who was staying in Singapore. So I said, okay, staying is not a problem. All I need to do is fund my ticket going there. Yes. Yeah. So I took that chance. And while we were there, I still remember on our first meeting with the team of the contractors, he came up with the project manager came up with a particular problem that, we have this construction problem and we need some vehicles to run on the track, temporary track, but then they should be able to carry so much of load, and we don't know how to do it because it's all confined space in the tunnel. So I knew, which I told you earlier, Mr. Shankar Narayan was a great designer. So I had confidence that if I'm able to explain the problem to him, he would be able to give me some solution. So I requested him. I said, can I think about it and come back to you next day? He says, fine. So I still remember quickly I made some notes and put some expected figure, meaning what kind of an equipment he had in mind, and faxed it to Mr. Shankar Narayan. And I think, poor chap, he must have worked overnight The next day morning, before I could get up, which was much earlier here, because Singapore is about 2 hours ahead, so 7 o'clock or something, because he knew I was to go for a meeting at 9, he faxed back to me that this is the equipment I think they will need. Can you show this to them? And literally, rightly so, when I went back, that project manager was delighted. He said, yes, this is exactly what I was looking for, because I had worked on a similar, somewhere in Europe I had worked and they had a similar equipment. I didn't even know the name, but I was too junior to even find out what it was. So this is exactly what we were. So that is where we became designers for that particular thing. So that was our first
international project.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
It was successful.
Yeah, and it grew. So apart from design, we just didn't do design, because then they said, who will manufacture it for us? Because if you give us the design, I don't even know where it will get manufactured. And Singapore is no place to get it manufactured because it's too expensive. So then we had to locate a manufacturer in India, and specifically in Hyderabad, so that we wouldn't waste time in coordinating that thing. So fortunately,
you found somebody
yes.
in Hyderabad.
So fortunately there was a small unit which was set up, which was doing some fabrication and some other heavy equipment and all. So they had the confidence, and Mr. Shankar Narayan had been advising them earlier for some time. So they had the confidence. They said, yes, if you are willing to guide us, we will manufacture it for you. So eventually we not just kind of became the designers, but we also managed the entire project, managed the entire process. Though manufacturing was given to them, but then we had to supervise. We had to check for quality. We had to get it tested here, certify it, and then send back. So that was a big, so what started
was
off.
the time period when this?
What started off as a maybe 1 or 2 months project ended up almost 1.5 years. I still remember the end of the project was the so-called dreaded Y2K. Because 1999,